Alrighty, and doing quite a few things this week. These weekly updates are so long they might end up being a part 1 and a part 2. I've got a few new additions. I'll talk a bit more about them, but we may have even more new additions in approximately a month, if you know what I mean. I've seen some funny bloody sex scenes, you know, living all my life on farms and all that. Like, basically I'm the first person in the male line of the family tree not to be a full-time farmer or farmhand all my working life since 1565. That's not a joke. Where we originated from southern England. I'm a 5th generation Aussie. And little Didim's here. He pulled off the funniest sex scene I've ever seen. Jumped on top of her. I've got a section over there. I'll show you in a second. It's got a lot of silver beet growing there. Jumped on top of her and was on the wrong way around. Started humping her head. Whoops. Got off. Got back on again. Started going. Next thing, he's going like a bloody machine gun. And then he sort of all of a sudden, oh, it must have reached climax or whatever. And ends up going, it's like a squeal followed by some big gasping sigh thing. I'll say some funny stuff. I'll tell you what, that was hilarious. What I've got over here, it's a big grey water line. That's 90 mil. It's almost 4 inch. I think it's 3 5/8 line, and that's my grey water. And I got to do a couple of bits and pieces to basically set up water in this again, which I usually do, but I've been letting them come in and have a bit of a nibble. And well, I had both of them in here together for a short while, and that's when it all happened, but they're getting stuck into the silver beet. Poor old silver beet's just about stuffed. She probably should have been watering it a bit beforehand, but it's always been very sort of gangly like this. I planted this lot, never expected it to survive, and another lot in a nicer area under the trees I expected to survive. It didn't survive at all. And this was so flippin' dried out and crap looking, I actually gave up watering it, and yet it's still going. Oh, what is 3 years later, I think? Yeah, about that. But anyway, this big bad black kitty. I don't know what's going on. She is just not growing up at all. And old Tabby Cat here is almost the size of a full cat, ain't you, hey? You're almost the size of a full cat, ain't you, bud? Hmm? And yet your sister is like the eternal kitten. I got a strange feeling that there's some sort of a growth issue with Black Kitty. But that doesn't matter because it means I get to keep a kitten for years as opposed to just 9 months or so. Because most people don't get that opportunity because they all grow up like you, don't they, Tabby Cat? Yeah. Mint's firing very well. I still got to hack this out. Mint's getting really quite big. Done a bit of cleaning up inside. I'll show you that in a second. I've got the tomatoes planted. I probably should water the flaming things in a second. They're starting to come along alright, actually. There's one there. Starting to get their true leaves, just starting to bud there, you might be able to see. There's another one. Another one that hasn't got the true leaves yet. Oh, there's another one. Yeah, it's a few of them in amongst all this. I have been cleaning up. Gave this a bit of a reorganise and everything. And when I got rid of the shopping trolley there, tell you the story on those two in a minute. By the way, he's going to come out of that shopping trolley and go into that one. And I have this other this was just a cover to cover something else. Long story, but it's pretty alright size sort of a thing. I've got a bit of mesh there. I've got some more, it's like real fine Avery wire for the front and a whole ton for the bottom. So she'll end up in there with probably cardboard box or something for the little bubs, and he will get out of his tight little shopping trolley and end up in her cage there, which is my sister's old rabbit cage from years back. End up flinging all the boxes out here. Quite a few. Some will go in the thing, in the recycle, and others will get used. Gave the whippersnipper a good run at work. Went through 2 batteries, and it went for about anything between an hour and 15 minutes on 2 batteries. I could not believe it. I've done a massive heap of stuff with it. Yeah, turn this on. Yeah, got all this set up. I might as well show you newer subscribers what this all is. Some of the other people from way back know. I don't know if you're going to see it. Oh, there's a bit of a light gap there. That's louvers are under there. And this thing here, bit of plywood on string. I can rip that right out. And then this is like your big ductwork vent, and it lines up perfectly with the back of the intake of this Chinese evaporative cooler. The evaporative effect of this thing is not worth shitting on, basically. But I can turn it on. It's got a timer built into it. And I used to set it for about an hour, and I realised you can actually set it for only about half an hour. And it cools the room down by sucking. You got to wait till the sun goes down, and you get that sort of a cooler night air. That sort of, you know, there's a point where you just all of a sudden the chill starts to kick in. Not the chill, but it goes from being warm to cool. And here, you'll find that switch over happen in about 10 or 15 minutes between, you know, warm day air and the cool night air. It literally is about a 10 or 15 minute changeover. And at that point, of course, because of the iron roof and everything on this, it's all still warm in here. And the fact that the sun goes down in that direction, this is the room that gets hot in the afternoon. This is cold in the morning, and the veranda's quite warm. And then as the afternoon comes over, this is the room that gets hot. So I run that for half an hour, just the blower fan on it, basically. And there's me vent. I've got another one of these bits of plywood that there's another string up there. I've got to adjust that string there to one of the little screws, the white screws there. And it lifts all this up. And it actually drops it down here. And yeah, the air goes out of there. This is wood that I used to have the inverter mounted on, so the inverter would get some of the cool air flowing over it. The idea was to have the evaporative cooler actually work as an evaporative cooler and cool the inverter that was running that same evaporative cooler. But that was back in the days when I had a Chinese inverter, and it didn't sort of work. I think I did actually have my proper inverter over that, and then you know, there was current draw issues between the batteries outside and the inverter there, so I moved the inverter out to the batteries. Oh yeah, almost forgot. Hang on, just flicking another light here. There we got that one there. I have moved a bit of stuff to one side and gotten all the random rabble off the floor. So we've got a bit of an empty floor space here because things have been reorganised and sorted out. Still got a couple of screws and stuff to put away and a few books to properly stack on the bookshelf. But at least I can get stuff out of my fridge without having to kick anything as I walk in the morning. yeah, that's about it generally. Except now you're going to see a whole stack of other updates in part 1 and part 2. Okay, instead of posting a half-hour worth of step-by-step updates about these two little wabbits, I might as well show you them and just explain it quickly. Big boy here. He landed on my driveway, and I was going to get my rubbish bin, and he just stood there, and I thought, what? And I thought he's a wild rabbit for a second, but then I thought, what sort of disease would he have to make the head big? And then I realised, no, that's actually a lop-eared rabbit, and he is a pretty big boy, although he's actually starved pretty much. He's a lot of brown on the back of the head, behind the head there, and on his butt he's a lot more black. He's not going to face me, you'll be able to see it down there. Yeah, a lot of brown just behind the head there. Isn't that right, big boy? You stand up very tall, can't you? He doesn't really have enough room. I'm going to probably have to make some sort of modification or get him another cage or something. Not a bad quick hillbilly hack, but he does need a bit of an extension, and I'll have to probably cut out a little bit for him to come through into another one beside it here, or just give him a whole new cage altogether. 2 nights later, I got this wabbit, which I believe is a girl. Could have been a castrated male, but I can't find a penis shaft as I can on the other rabbit, which seems a lot like sheep and pigs and cows, and that same sort of thing on a micro scale. For him, I cannot find on this one. And if it is a male, it has been castrated because there are no nuts, although there is a bit of saggy skin there, but I have to have another look. But anyway, little white nose. It's adorable. And I don't know if you can see the big thing under the chin. It's like a big flap of skin, almost like a... reminds me of an Amish man's beard. But yeah, I've felt it, and it's not a tumour or anything like that, or a cyst or anything. We get the occasional cyst with pigs at work, so I can only assume it's actually a breed thing, which is a lot better fed and a lot more alert and active and inquisitive than he has been, although he's been pretty good. When I showed him just then, he doesn't really always want to stand up on the side like that, although he does occasionally. He's usually rather reserved and just sits there, ain't ya? You usually just sit there, ain't it right, big bunny? But anyway, it's getting a bit cool. I'm going to get a fire extinguisher box and whack it in so he's got a bit of warmth for the night. You're a big tall bunny, ain't you, hey? I was trying to get you to do that the other day. You wouldn't stand up for me, would you? You're doing it now. Anyway, just an old cage that my sister used to have for rabbits and guinea pigs and whatnot. And it's all a bit of a flaming rough temporary situation because this was all sprung on me very unexpectedly. And yeah, I better go and check if I don't have number 3 sitting on the driveway. Black kitty. It's the same bunny as before. Well, sort of. Just a change of cages. Unfortunately, the black rabbit died. I've just sort of moved it across a bit to stop any possible disease transfer. Although, technically, you should do a lot more than just that to stop disease transfer. But I don't think it was disease, because basically she'd never eat. And I think that's a sign of stress. Change of environment, not used to it all, and then they sort of first of all go after the food and basically starve themselves to death, all because of not being able to handle a change of environment. And this one here, he's still going. And he definitely eats. He's got a lot smaller container, but he will go through that 3/4 the way at night, and then he'll fill it up at the start of the day and come back and it's flipping empty again. So, although he's very skinny, I think he's going to make it. He doesn't look skinny, but he actually is. Anyway, we'll see how we go. He seems very happy and inquisitive. Seems to be a lot more friendly towards me too. Always comes up to the side of the cage and looks at me and everything. These two are funny. They're cuddling and then they're licking each other, and next thing it's fucking on for young and old. Isn't it, hey? You two don't know if you're trying to lick each other and be friendly, or you're going to tear each other to shreds. Hey? You get what, Tippy Kit? Poor old cat's been a bit confused by the rabbits being here, but they're sort of getting used to them now. Oi, you new world black kitty, Alrighty, it's starting to clear a little bit. Before it was even quite a lot darker. I look at the Bureau of Meteorology website to see if it's going to be a nice bright day, and if they have a UV warning that sort of is telling you more or less should put a bit of sunscreen on or something like that, they mean the sun's going to come out, and then I say, well, I can run my slow cooker and it'll be fine because I'll have plenty of solar power. But this is actually about the clearest it's been all day. It's too late because the sun's about to go down. So we had a very dark, cloudy day, and, well, I ran a slow cooker primarily off batteries. I've had these two chainsaws for quite a while. I actually bought this one for $275, and that one about 6 months later for $125, and I gave it to my uncle as a present. I used these during my business in late 2010, and, yeah. This one seemed to be running a bit rich, and then the oiler didn't work. This one was good, so I thought. It lasted for a total of about probably 12 hours. And then you'd start the engine up, and it would go for 2 minutes, and then it'd start rattling like hell, and it would just die. And, like, literally, you started up, and from when she started firing to when it would stall, no matter what you done, no matter how much you put the throttle down, it was about 2 minutes in total she'd run for, and you'd get no wood cut. You're battling to try and keep it going. And this one would only start on a cold morning, and by the time the sun came out and it warmed up, it wouldn't run. I suspected it was running too rich, and the oiler didn't work. I was right. Somehow the air cleaner was blocked up in it, and I've had these sitting here since, you know, end of 2010 in my house, and we've had a lot of other projects to do, and my father's had his own projects, and we've played around with fencing, and, well, I went and got a Stihl chainsaw, which was actually reliable, and didn't sort of look at these, and I've been meaning to give it to him last 6 or 9 months. But I finally gave these to him when I was cleaning my house out, and he made a good one, this one, out of the two of them. Now, it turns out they just had a dirty air filter, like I was saying, and he didn't even need to adjust the carburetor. I used both of them actually, on a palm tree, and with the oilers, in the older Stihls, you'll have like your clutch piece there, and then you've got a little oiler thing on, you know, the right-hand side of it, which runs your oiler. With these shitty no-name branded ones, and these sort of, you know, ones that have this one's built in America, and so is that one, I believe. Pretty certain they're both built in America, and I thought that meant something, but it doesn't. And they've got all the inherent Chinese quality. But with these ones with the Chinese quality, or the no-name Chinese knockoff sort of things you get, it turns out that the oiler is actually in behind the clutch. You know, this is your little clutch brake thingy here. Well, that one that activates your clutch there. It's actually behind it. Anyway, the fibres out of the palm tree got in and got stuck on the shaft and worked their way in and actually just disintegrated the blasted oiler. Only a little shitty plastic nylon mechanism and just wrecked it. So he butchered the one out of that one into this one. And I asked him to have a look at this one and work out why it's rattling so much, and I said it's either a cracked piston or it's a bearing that's stuffed or something like that. Well, yeah, you can take the muffler off and you can see the piston moving up and down from where the muffler attaches. And it's right, at a certain point it goes clonk, like part of the big end bearing is basically stuffed in it. But it doesn't end there. They've only got one piston ring instead of 2 or 3 that you sometimes might get. And yeah, well, that ring is all pushed in and it basically sits inside the piston to the point it doesn't really act like a ring that runs up and down against the bore. It just sort of sits there and doesn't really do much with the bore. But well, the cylinder itself is actually rubbing up against the bore and it's nice and shiny because the whole cylinder on one side is rubbing up against the bore. And then this cylinder near that same part that's shiny is actually slightly pitted. Real good bloody quality. Ha ha. Fortunately, this one's got a chain. The other one, I think the chain went in the bin. Those of you who know anything about chains know the way you sharpen them. You sort of end up digging into your back. So this there, that is one piece right where my thumb is. So you dig into the back there on a certain angle, and same again with that. That one's just facing the opposite way because it'll cut the right and then the left and the right and the left and so on. This certain place I used to get my chain sharpened at, they decided it'd be a good idea to just dig out about 3.5 mil, like 1/8 of an inch, I think it's slightly more than 1/8 of an inch, in one friggin' hit, and had these big burrs hanging off the side and everything, and they call that chain sharpening. They absolutely stuffed it. Didn't apologise, didn't say anything, still charged me money for it, and they must have known it was a shit job. And they'd done it to the entire chain, not just a few teeth, the entire chain, the whole way around, they stuffed it. And I basically got another couple of uses out of that. Just basically ran it till it was completely blunt, and there was almost nothing left of those teeth there. Like that, there was just barely anything left. And I just basically had to chuck them in the bin. And it was about that time that my father and I decided maybe we should sharpen our own chains, and went out and found a $100 chain sharpener and threw in $50 each, and well, he's been sharpening me chains ever since, and chain sharpener just lives over at his place. Anyway, but we've only got one chain, but I'm not too worried because, I mean, given the way this piece of shit's gone, the chainsaw will probably die before the chain wears out, so and I'm not really worried about going and buying another chain for something that might not outlast another chain, another new chain, and so that's probably that. But I've got me still, and my still's actually got 5 chains for it, so I tend to use the still. You'd be surprised the fuel in this. Usually here, like I know in the States they put alcohol in the fuel. We do here, but it must be marked. And in fact, there's actually not that much fuel with alcohol even available in my state. There is quite a bit available in New South Wales, but not in Victoria. And you can get it, but you got to go looking. There's only one franchise that really has it, and usually still the fuel will be stale within about 6 months. Well, you'd be surprised that I filled this up last time, you know, into 2010, started 2011. The fuel was still good in it, and he started up without a problem. I couldn't believe the fuel wasn't stale, so somehow we hit a winner there. I don't know if it's the 2-stroke oil that helped make it last. You can buy a fuel stabiliser in the hardware stores now for people to put in their lawnmowers. But yeah, I really didn't see that coming, and I still had bar oil in it and everything. I was quite surprised, but there have been times where I've gone and some of the electric chainsaws, I've actually, when the engines are gone kaput, the electric motors are gone kaput, I actually steal the bar oil out and put it in another chainsaw. But gone through a few chainsaws in my day, and most of them have been shitbox ones. And now I've got to steal them onto something that's fairly reasonable.